The vast chamber of the Galactic Confederation's Council Hall stretched upward into darkness, its crystalline walls reflecting the soft bioluminescence of 1,000 different species. Admiral Helena Drake stood at the center of it all, her weathered naval uniform a stark contrast to the flowing robes and biological augmentations of the assembled alien representatives. She couldn't help but think how humanity's first official contact with the galactic community might have gone differently if they hadn't discovered the ruins on Mars. The head of the council, High Speaker Ixil, a being composed of shifting iridescent patterns within a containment field, addressed the chamber. "We welcome Earth's representatives to this historic session. Your species' achievement of faster-than-light travel in mere centuries is remarkable, if crude in implementation." Drake's jaw tightened at the dismissive tone, but she maintained her composure. This wasn't the time for pride. "Thank you, High Speaker. Before we proceed with membership discussions, I must deliver a message from Earth's United Council. We seek peaceful cooperation with all species, but we must be clear, please don't make humanity angry. You wouldn't like the consequences." A ripple of what could only be described as laughter moved through the chamber. The Kraxan representative, Ambassador Vexthor, his scaled chest plates expanding with amusement, spoke up. "And what exactly should we fear from a species that has barely mastered gravimetric field manipulation? Your fastest ships are still laughably slow by our standards." "That's precisely my point," Drake responded, her voice carrying an edge of steel. "We achieved in 200 years what took most species 2,000. Have you asked yourselves why?" In the gallery above, Dr. Kraltex, a xenoanthropologist from the silicon-based Lithosian species, leaned forward with interest. Unlike his colleagues, he recognized something in the human stance, the careful control, the measured words. It reminded him of ancient warrior cultures he had studied. "The ruins on Mars," Drake continued, "showed us we weren't alone. But more importantly, they showed us how far behind we were. Humanity doesn't handle being told we're inferior very well. In fact, it tends to make us rather creative." She activated a holographic display, showing Earth's rapid technological progression. "In the 50 years since finding those ruins, we've compressed a millennium of development into half a century. Not because we're naturally brilliant, but because someone implied we couldn't do it." The council members shifted uncomfortably as Drake's presentation continued. The speed of human advancement was indeed unprecedented, but surely it was just beginner's luck, many thought. A few, however, began to see the pattern. Every time humanity encountered an obstacle, they didn't just overcome it, they shattered it completely. "We come seeking friendship," Drake concluded, "but we come with a warning born from our own history. Humanity has fought itself countless times, each war more terrible than the last." 3 years after Earth's admission to the Galactic Confederation, military strategist Marcus Rivera stood in a chamber deep beneath the lunar surface, surrounded by holographic displays showing ship movements across known space. He watched as another convoy of seemingly civilian vessels departed the Sol system, their transponders broadcasting routine trading missions. "Status report on Project Aegis," he asked, his voice echoing in the cavernous command center. Dr. Isabella Patel, head of Earth's Advanced Defense Research, stepped forward. Her dark eyes reflected the gleaming data streams around them. "The quantum shielding integration is proceeding ahead of schedule. The Kraxan Empire's latest routine scan of our shipping lanes gave us an excellent look at their sensor capabilities." Rivera nodded, tracking the movement of Kraxan patrol ships near human space. Their increasing presence wasn't subtle, at least not to anyone who'd studied historical patterns of aggressive empires. The Kraxan Empire had been expanding its influence for centuries, always under the guise of protecting trade interests. "And the Ghostweave systems?" he asked. "Successfully installed in 60% of our fleet. The rest will be completed within 2 months. As far as anyone can tell, we're just running old-style deflector shields." Isabella pulled up a detailed simulation. "They scan us, they see exactly what we want them to see, an emerging species still struggling with basic space combat technology. In the 3 years since first contact, humanity had maintained a careful facade of technological inadequacy. Every public advancement was measured, deliberate, and just impressive enough to show progress without raising alarms. But beneath the surface, in hidden shipyards and classified research facilities, humanity's true capabilities were growing at an exponential rate. High above Earth, Admiral Drake's flagship, the UES Vigilant, received a priority transmission from their embassy on the Confederation capital world. Ambassador Chen's hologram appeared in Drake's ready room, his expression grave. The Kraxan Empire is pushing for trade route reorganization again, Chen reported. They're claiming our merchant ships are disrupting traditional commerce patterns. But this time, they're gaining support from some of the smaller species. Drake's fingers drummed on her desk. They're testing the waters, seeing how the Confederation responds to increasing pressure on us. Agreed. Dr. Krautex tried to speak in our defense, but the Council dismissed his concerns as academic oversensitivity. Chen's hologram flickered. There's more. Our intelligence suggests the Kraxan are establishing hidden bases in the Arcturus sector, well within their claimed routine patrol zones. Right on our primary trade route to the core worlds, Drake mused. How convenient. In the Kraxan Empire's military command center, Fleet Commander Zexkar reviewed the latest intelligence on human activities. Their ships are pathetic, he declared to his war council. Primitive shields, basic weapons, and their crews spend half their time in cryosleep because they haven't mastered proper FTL compensation. His second-in-command, Subcommander Ixilvax, displayed a chart of human trading patterns. They're expanding their colonial operations, but slowly. Their new worlds are barely defended. One show of force would likely bring them to heel. The Confederation won't intervene? Zexkar inquired. They never do, not for minor trade disputes. And the humans' warning about not making them angry has become something of a joke in council chambers. Back on Luna, Rivera and Isabella reviewed the latest updates from their deep-cover operatives throughout Confederation space. The quantum entanglement communicator, technology the Confederation thought impossible for humans to achieve, brought real-time intelligence from across the galaxy. The Kraxan are positioning for something big, Rivera observed, studying the classified data. Their fleet movements, their diplomatic posturing, they're following classic encirclement tactics. Isabella pulled up another display, this one showing the status of Earth's hidden defensive preparations. Maybe it's time we let them glimpse behind the curtain. Just enough to make them reconsider. Rivera shook his head. Admiral Drake's orders are clear. We show nothing until we have to show everything. Humanity learned long ago that half measures in warfare only warn your opponent without deterring them. In her private quarters aboard the Vigilant, Drake reviewed the latest reports from Rivera's team. The Kraxan Empire's provocations were increasing, just as expected. Humanity's carefully crafted image of technological inadequacy had worked almost too well. The Kraxan clearly thought Earth would be an easy target for their next expansion. She opened a secure channel to the United Earth Council. Madam President, it's time to activate Phase 2 of the Threshold Protocol. The Kraxan Empire is accelerating their timeline. Understood, Admiral, President Santos responded. All colonial governors have been quietly briefed. Industrial production is already shifting to war footing under civilian cover. How long do you think we have? Drake studied the intelligence analyses before her. Based on historical patterns, no more than 6 months before they make their move. They'll likely stage an incident, claim we violated some obscure trade regulation, then move to protect their interests. And the Confederation? Will do nothing, just as they've done nothing about the Kraxan's previous conquests. They've grown too comfortable in their power, too certain in their superiority. Drake's voice hardened. They still think our warning was empty rhetoric. As the call ended, Drake stood at her viewport, watching Earth rotate slowly below. Humanity had spent 3 years preparing for this moment, building up their true capabilities in secret while maintaining a carefully crafted illusion of technological inferiority. The Kraxan Empire was about to learn why making humanity angry was a terrible mistake. In the depths of Luna's military complex, Rivera watched as another convoy of merchant ships departed the solar system. Behind their civilian facades, they carried the most advanced weapons humanity had ever created. Soon, the galaxy would understand that humanity's warning hadn't been a boast, it had been a courtesy. The attack came without warning. The Horizon Research Station, orbiting a distant gas giant in the Arcturus sector, erupted in flames as Kraxan warships emerged from hyperspace. The station's primitive shields collapsed under the barrage, and escape pods scattered into the void. Within minutes, the facility was reduced to drifting debris. In the Confederation Council chamber, Ambassador Chen stood rigid as the Kraxan representative delivered their statement. The human facility was conducting illegal weapons research, Ambassador Vexthor declared. We had no choice but to neutralize this threat to galactic peace. 300 civilian researchers, Chen's voice cut through the chamber. Scientists studying atmospheric composition for terraforming purposes. And you murdered them. Your propaganda doesn't interest us, Vexthor sneered. We've already dispatched peacekeeping forces to secure other potentially dangerous human installations. For the good of the Confederation, of course. High Speaker Ixel's patterns swirled with concern. The Council will need time to investigate these serious allegations. In the meantime, we urge both parties to avoid further military action. Chen's laugh was cold and sharp. You still don't understand. We warned you. All of you. We begged you not to make humanity angry. He turned to leave, then paused. What happens next isn't just on the Kraxan Empire. It's on every being in this chamber who ignored our warnings. Deep beneath Luna's surface, Marcus Rivera watched as emergency protocols activated across human space. The facade was finally dropping. Status report, he commanded. Ghostweave systems disengaging across all ships, Isabella reported, her fingers dancing across holographic controls. Quantum shields at full power. The Kraxan are about to learn they've been shooting at shadows for 3 years. Rivera nodded grimly. Initiate Project Aegis. Authorization code, remember Horizon. Throughout human space, hidden installations hummed to life. Asteroid bases that had masqueraded as mining operations revealed their true nature. Civilian ships transformed, weapons systems emerging from concealed compartments. 3 years of preparation were about to bear fruit. Aboard the UES Vigilant, Admiral Drake received the automated distress calls from Horizon Station. Her face remained calm, but her eyes burned. Send the message, she ordered. All channels, all frequencies. Throughout Confederation space, every communication system suddenly carried the same transmission: you were warned. You chose not to listen. Humanity's patience is at an end. In the Kraxan Command Center, Fleet Commander Zexkar watched with satisfaction as his forces approached their next target, a human colony world. These primitives will learn their place quickly enough, he declared. Their ships can barely achieve stable FTL travel. This will be dash. An aide burst into the chamber. Commander. Our forces at the Human Research Station, they're gone. Gone. What do you mean, gone? The human ships we thought were fleeing, they turned and engaged. Our vessels reported their weapons were far more advanced than intel suggested, and then we lost all contact. Zexkar's scales darkened with rage. Impossible. Send the rest of the fleet. Crush these dash. Sir. Multiple human vessels decloaking around our advance forces. They're everywhere. In the Confederation Council chamber, Dr. Kraltex rushed to address the emergency session. You must understand what you've done, he pleaded. I've studied their history. Humans don't just fight wars, they transform themselves for war. Every major conflict in their history led to massive technological leaps. They don't think like we do. But it was too late. Reports were already flooding in. Human ships appearing from nowhere, their true capabilities finally unveiled. The primitive shields were gone, replaced by defensive systems that seemed to bend reality itself. Their weapons didn't just damage enemy vessels, they seemed to ignore conventional defenses entirely. President Santos addressed the United Earth Council as the first battles were fought. For 3 years, we hoped diplomacy would prevent this day. We built our defenses while pretending to be less than we are, praying they would heed our warnings. But the Kraxan Empire chose violence, and the Confederation chose to look away. She paused, her expression grave. We didn't want this war. But we have spent every day since first contact preparing for it. Because humanity learned long ago, hope for peace, prepare for war, and when war comes, end it decisively. In space, the true face of humanity's military power was revealing itself. Ships equipped with quantum phase technology shifted in and out of normal space, making conventional targeting impossible. Weapons developed in secret cut through cracks in shields like they didn't exist. Every retreat was a trap, every vulnerable target a carefully planned ambush. Admiral Drake watched from her command center as the carefully orchestrated campaign unfolded. Send word to all forces, she ordered. Execute Operation Thunderbolt. Show them exactly what they've awakened. Throughout human space, hidden fleet bases activated. Ships that had been masquerading as freighters and miners revealed their true nature. The careful illusion of human technological inferiority shattered completely as humanity's full military might emerged from the shadows. In the Confederation Council chamber, the representatives watched in growing horror as reports continued to arrive. They had ignored humanity's warnings, dismissed them as the empty boasts of a primitive species. Now they were witnessing the consequences of their arrogance, and the galaxy would never be the same. The Kraxan Empire's greatest fleet assembled above their core worlds, 10,000 ships strong. Fleet Commander Zexkar had recalled every available vessel, determined to crush the human uprising with overwhelming force. The humans had shown surprising strength, yes, but surely they couldn't stand against the combined might of an empire that had dominated space for millennia. All ships, battle formation, he commanded. These humans think they can challenge us. Let's show them what real power looks like. The words had barely left his mouth when proximity alarms screamed across the fleet. Space itself seemed to ripple as human vessels phased into existence throughout the Kraxan formation. Not dozens. Not hundreds. Thousands. In the Lunar Command Center, Isabella Patel's voice was steady as she reported, Operation Checkmate is proceeding as planned. Quantum phase drive synchronization complete. All ships in position. Marcus Rivera nodded, watching the tactical display. Execute Phase 2. Aboard the UES Vigilant, Admiral Drake gave the order. Deploy the Aegis Protocol. Throughout the Kraxan fleet, shields suddenly flickered and died. Weapon systems went dark. Engines sputtered to a halt. The mighty armada hung powerless in space, their advanced technology rendered useless by countermeasures humanity had spent 3 years developing. Impossible. Zexkar raged. How can they? We're receiving a transmission. Admiral Drake's hologram appeared on every Kraxan ship. Your empire has spent centuries bullying smaller species, taking what you want, killing who you please. You thought humanity would be another easy conquest. You were wrong. In the Confederation Council chamber, representatives watched in stunned silence as reports poured in. The Kraxan Empire's military might, built over thousands of years, was being systematically dismantled by a species they'd considered primitive just days ago. Dr. Kraltex addressed the chamber, his crystalline form pulsing with urgency. Do you understand now? While we saw them struggling with basic technology, they were studying us. Learning our weaknesses. preparing countermeasures for every advantage we thought we had. The holographic displays showed human ships using technologies the Confederation had thought impossible. Quantum phase drives that allowed them to appear anywhere instantly. Shields that didn't just block energy but redirected it. Weapons that targeted the fundamental forces holding matter together. President Santos addressed the United Earth Council as reports of victory after victory arrived. For too long, the galaxy saw humanity as children playing with technology we barely understood. They mistook our warnings for empty threats, our preparation for paranoia. Today, they learn the truth. In the depths of space, the true extent of humanity's deception became clear. Those primitive mining operations. Hidden shipyards and weapon factories. The inefficient trade routes. A vast intelligence-gathering network. Every seeming weakness had concealed a strength. Isabella pulled up new data in the Lunar Command Center. The Kraxen are attempting to activate their forbidden weapons platforms. Should we stop them? Rivera smiled grimly. Let them try. They'll find out why we spent so much time studying their weapon signatures. Throughout Kraxen space, their most secret and powerful weapons came online, only to be neutralized instantly by countermeasures humanity had developed specifically for this moment. How? A Kraxen commander demanded as his superweapon failed. How could you possibly know about these weapons, let alone develop defenses against them? The response came from a human tactical officer: we fought ourselves for centuries. Every weapon you could imagine, we've already used against ourselves. Did you think we wouldn't recognize the signs? Wouldn't prepare? In the Confederation capital, Ambassador Chen met with the Inner Council. We tried to warn you, he said quietly. Humanity united isn't just strong, we're terrifying. We spent thousands of years fighting ourselves, developing ever more powerful ways to wage war. When we found the ruins on Mars, we didn't just learn we weren't alone. We learned we needed to be ready. The council members watched as another Kraxen fleet fell to human forces. Not through brute force, but through careful strategy and technologies specifically designed to counter their every advantage. 3 years, Chen continued. 3 years you watched us fumble with primitive technology. 3 years we spent learning everything about you, preparing for the worst while hoping for the best. 3 years of maintaining a facade while building the most powerful defensive force this galaxy has ever seen. Admiral Drake watched from the Vigilance Bridge as the last Kraxen battle group surrendered. Send word to all commands, she ordered. Initiate Operation Safeguard. Show them we're not conquerors. Human ships began providing aid to civilian populations on Kraxen worlds, protecting them from the chaos of their empire's collapse. Medical ships appeared from their hidden bases, bringing help to those who needed it. Even in victory, humanity demonstrated a principle their enemies had forgotten: true strength lies not just in the ability to win wars, but in how you treat those you defeat. Dr. Kraltex completed his report to the Confederation Council. In focusing on humanity's apparent technological limitations, we missed the most important lesson from their history. They don't just adapt to overcome challenges, they transform themselves entirely to meet them. We thought we were watching a primitive species learn to walk among the stars. Instead, we were watching a warrior culture choose peace, until peace was no longer an option. 6 months after the Kraxen Empire's surrender, the Galactic Confederation gathered for a historic session. The chamber looked different now. The once grandiose Kraxen section was notably smaller, and the human delegation's area had been expanded. But the biggest change wasn't physical, it was in how the other species watched Admiral Drake as she took the podium. Gone was the condescension, the subtle dismissal in their postures. Now they listened with full attention as she spoke. The reconstruction of former Kraxen territories continues on schedule, she reported. With the cooperation of local governments, we've established stable trade routes and humanitarian aid distribution networks. High Speaker Ixel's patterns shifted in what had become recognizable as respectful acknowledgement. The Confederation acknowledges humanity's restraint in victory. Many species would have used such overwhelming military superiority to establish an empire of their own. That was never our goal, Drake responded. Humanity learned long ago that true peace cannot be built on domination. The Kraxan Empire fell because they chose to ignore that lesson. In the reformed Kraxan territories, former fleet commander Zexkar, now serving as a civilian administrator under the new government, watched human ships assist with the reconstruction of a damaged orbital habitat. The ship's true capabilities were no longer hidden, quantum phase drives humming quietly, advanced shields maintaining environmental integrity for the workers. I still don't understand, he admitted to Dr. Isabella Patel, who was overseeing the technical integration of human and Kraxan technology. You had this power all along. You could have conquered us at any time. Why maintain the deception? Isabella paused in her work, considering her response. Because humanity's greatest strength isn't our technology or our military might. It's our ability to learn from history. Every war we fought taught us the same lesson: victory without wisdom leads only to the next war. In the Lunar Command Center, Marcus Rivera and his team were decommissioning some of their secret facilities, converting them to peaceful purposes. Status report on Operation New Dawn, he asked. Proceeding as planned, his assistant reported. 80% of our hidden shipyards have been repurposed for civilian production. The remaining 20% maintain ready status, as per the new Confederation Defense Protocol. The Confederation had changed profoundly in the wake of the conflict. Dr. Kraltek's comprehensive study of human history had become required reading for all diplomatic corps. His latest paper, The Human Paradigm, Preparation as Prevention, had sparked a revolution in galactic military and diplomatic theory. The truly remarkable aspect, he wrote, isn't that humanity developed such advanced technology in secret. It's that they did so while genuinely hoping never to use it. Each advancement was paired with diplomatic initiatives, each weapon developed alongside peace proposals. They prepared for war while working tirelessly for peace, a contradiction many species are still struggling to understand. Ambassador Chen, now serving as humanity's representative on the Confederation's newly formed Defense Council, addressed a session on interspecies relations. We meant what we said from the beginning: we prefer friendship to conflict. But we also meant our warning. Humanity's history taught us that peace through weakness is merely a prelude to war. The Confederation had restructured its approach to emerging species, implementing what became known as the Human Protocol, taking warnings seriously, no matter how primitive the species appeared. The incident had taught them that technological advancement could be hidden, but a species' fundamental nature would always show through. President Santos stood before the United Earth Council, delivering her end-of-year address. We revealed our true capabilities not to dominate, but to establish lasting peace. The galaxy now understands that humanity's warnings weren't threats, they were attempts to avoid unnecessary conflict. In the Arcturus sector, a memorial station orbited where the Horizon Research Station had once stood. Its quantum shields were visible now, no longer disguised, protecting the solemn structure. The station served both as a reminder of the cost of ignorance and as a center for collaborative research between species. Admiral Drake visited the memorial regularly. Today, she stood with a group of Confederation diplomats, including several young Kraxan. Your history texts called us primitive, she told them, but they missed something crucial. Humanity's greatest achievements didn't come from our confidence in victory, but from our fear of war. We built in secret not because we wanted to deceive, but because we hoped never to need our weapons. The galaxy had learned its lesson. When a newly discovered species warned about their potential for violence, the Confederation listened. When they spoke of hidden strengths, no one laughed. The human example had taught them that dismissing such warnings wasn't just foolish, it was potentially catastrophic. Dr. Kraltek concluded his final report to the Council with words that would be studied for generations: the true power of humanity lies not in their weapons or their technology, but in their duality. They are builders who prepare for destruction, warriors who strive for peace, a species whose greatest hope is to never have to demonstrate their strength. The galaxy laughed at their warning. The galaxy was wrong. May we never forget the lesson learned: when a species tells you who they are, believe them. In Earth orbit, the UES Vigilant maintained its patrol, its true capabilities now visible to all. But its presence was no longer seen as a threat by the other species. Instead, it had become a symbol of a new understanding in the galaxy, that true peace comes not from ignorance of each other's strength, but from respect for each other's nature. The stars wheeled overhead, and in the vast darkness of space, humanity's ships continued their vigilant watch, no longer hiding, no longer pretending to be less than they were. They had hoped for peace, prepared for war, and in the end, achieved something greater than victory: understanding.